Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is your boy Angel R Talk, and this is the NYCTalking.com podcast.
The city of New York, Boricua from the Bronx.
Today, I got two of my boys. I got my man Albert Solis and Gibran Malik, and we're going to be talking about ego. Ego. I don't know how you guys want to start. Who wants to start? What do you think about ego?
I'd say ego takes a lot of discipline. For regardless of what direction you want to take, you have to know which actions thus far have been detrimental to you. So it takes a lot of initiative and discipline, I'd say.
Sage is Gibran, by the way. So you hear me refer to him as Sage.
So ego, I think is primarily this thought of you having some sort of independence, and as far as the depth of the ego or a particular thing, it's how much of an independence you feel you have, right? So like when people are Buddhist or they talk about the oneness and everything and universal consciousness and things like that, what they're trying to say is of ego comes from the understanding that we don't have a true independence. At least not, it's like transient, just seems that way. But when you let go of things, you let go of ego essentially, then you detach from all of that. But after understanding what ego is, whether or not, I guess you want to say if it's healthy, and if it is healthy, how much of it is healthy, or because obviously too much of ego is, history has shown us time and time again how that plays out.
Do you guys associate ego with like pride and embarrassment? Like when I was younger, I used to get picked on a lot, right? And it made me not want to be humiliated and not want to be embarrassed. And that made me want to learn how to fight. And that made me learn martial arts and get bigger and stronger. You guys think that is associated with ego? Or is that just self-defense? Like, what do you guys think about that? Because that's where I feel like my ego comes in, where I don't misunderstand me. I don't get into fights, but there's times where I feel like my brain, the switch goes off. Like I got to punch this guy in the face and choke him out to dominate him because he's trying to mark me. You guys think that could be, and it's just an internal thing. I don't act on it, but there are times where I feel like someone's testing me and I need to flex and dominate them before they think that they can, you know what I'm saying? Is that ego too, or is that something else entirely?
Yeah. You'll find with me, I'm a little bit high-minded. I think that ego is always present. It's how you manage it. And I just say real quick, we'll delve into this later, but being a Christian, it's a lot about like growing confidence and maintaining our balance. Because I believe that I have a supernatural help that many others don't, right? I have this God and I have this supernatural spirit inside of me that's going to help me be more of a better person, as everyone else is striving to be by acts alone. So, and then I have the assurance that God loves me and dying on the cross as a salvation for my sins. And that sort of assurance leads to peace, joy, and rest for this side of the world and for the next. So it's pretty central to everything I do.
So I think the response that Angel you have to someone trying to test you or take advantage of you, I think since you are not the initiator of it, I don't really call that what you do. I wouldn't reference it as ego. Like my ego made me want to do this. You were not the initiator. You're just trying to defend yourself, and you understand that by standing your ground, you don't, your way of life or your the way you feel comfortable in living. Obviously not, people don't want to be dominated. Some people do, interestingly enough, some people are very submissive and they want to be dominated by someone else, and they they drop their ego essentially for someone else to come in. But when it comes to fights and things like that, if you normally are not the initiator and it's always in self-defense, that's more of, I wouldn't really call that ego, although you're using your ego in order to defend yourself. You're not you're not someone who I would define as egotistical. You know, when you say somebody's like ego driven or egotistical, they wouldn't get that impression from you if you're only using it in self defense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's more like an instinctual preservation.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see that for sure.
Yeah, I always wonder about that because inside of me, if like if someone says something to me or challenges me or whatever, like I want to instinctively defend myself. Like I want to I want to defend myself in this very, sometimes too much. And I always wondered if that's pride and ego, um, because I try to be humble. I try to be, a good person and stuff, but I have that internal struggle where let's say you come up to me like, hey, you a punk. Immediately I want to show you I'm not a punk. Oh yeah, because of the history of how the streets were. Every time somebody said that to me, it was usually followed by them robbing me or whooping my butt or something bad happening. So when somebody says to me, "You a punk," and immediately I'm thinking to myself, "All right, this guy right here, he's testing how far he can push me, and I'm gonna break him. I'm gonna wreck his soul." Like that's the instinctive response. I'd like to get to a place where that doesn't happen, where my action is I just keep it pushing. I don't do anything. I don't start trouble. You say you're a punk, is like, well, hey, it is what it is, man. Some of us are punks. Yeah. As long as you don't do anything, I'm cool. But I'd like to get to a place where I actually believe that and I'm comfortable because I don't believe it. I act on it. It's how I live. But inside, I want to destroy you. What I mean? So
I think I think I think you're talking about the difference between, this is where it gets tricky. Like there's like civil law, right? To make sure that the public is is safe, and that, the criminal element, I would say, is something that's in every society. It's prevalent, in all human societies. There's always some sort of criminal element that, emerges, amongst the weakest in society. And when I say weakest, I'm talking about mentally. And it can come from trauma. It can come from so many things, and it usually does. And these people are looking to fight. Now you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't want to fight. I don't want to create tension. I don't want to add to the fire. But at what point do I draw the line and say, okay, well, it's not even about adding to the drama. It's more about preventing drama from occurring. If we let these guys, just run rampant, everyone just leaves them alone, that's not going to solve the problem. You know what I mean? There has to be some sort of civil law. And then we have police for that reason, but the police are not always around. You might be in a situation where you have to make a decision. Am I in a scary place, or is this guy just all talk? And I think that's comes with experience and intuition, and you're never always 100% sure,
yeah, yeah. I guess it's more just of a survival instinct, right? you know.
But are you concerned about how it's affecting you as a person more than that decision?
Well, I mean, like I'm never at ease. I'm never at ease. I'm never at peace. I always feel like I'm on edge, you know, and, especially when I go in the street, I might be cool. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm cool and I'm having a good time and stuff, but there's always that thing in the back of my head that at any point things can go sideways, and how I would react to it. So like I'll be sitting on, I'll be doing cardio at the gym on a machine, and somebody will pass by and they'll glance at me, and in my head I'm already fighting them, and I'm thinking how I'm going to choke them out, and what you know.
I think, correct me at any moment. You correct me if I'm wrong. I think that comes from trauma.
Mm.
Your experience growing up. I mean, I don't know if you guys heard of if you guys kind of neuroplasticity.
What's that called again? Say it again.
neuroplasticity.
No, not familiar with that.
So even though you're not familiar with the term, you're familiar with what it is. So your brain, the more you do something habitually, whether you're exposed to it or you do it yourself, your brain slowly creates pathways as a response to that repetitive situation. Just like a circadian rhythm, if you go to sleep around the same time every night, your body eventually starts to shut down towards that time at night because it already remembers that this is when you go to sleep, right? So your body gets used to certain things. And I think that when you go through a certain traumatic experience, or not even a specific experience, but a traumatic, I would say like a shaping environment, you went through an environment for so long, a certain way, that you can't just shut that off. Things are relatively peaceful now compared to what I guess when you were young, right? At a certain point, definitely more peaceful now than what before.
Yeah, for sure.
You're still in that zone, just like even when someone who retires after working for like 30, 40 years, that first 5 years of retirement, they're like, what am I doing with my life? And it's like, bro, you retired. Like you've already done it, put in your work. But they're so used to working that they just feel like I'm wasting my time. I have to do something. And I think, because of that, you kind of maybe second guess yourself, like, I shouldn't be thinking like that. The guy who just walked by me in the gym, I shouldn't think like that about him, that I want to rip his face off or looking at me. It's not him. It's your subconscious telling you he could be a threat based on previous encounters. The guy doesn't know what's going on. He just walked by you in the gym. He doesn't even know you're upset. But
Right.
experience, you're maybe tying that with your ego, but it's that. I don't think that's ego. I think, and I can see how the lines can get blurred though. I can see how you think that that's what it is. But in my unprofessional opinion, I don't think that is. I think that that's more of just your environment for so long affecting you that it's still lingering and affecting your choices in situations that you're currently in, where you're like, there's always a little bit of a threat, but there is no relative threat. Like, so I don't understand. Is this me just being an asshole? I don't know. I don't think it is.
So I'd like to say on this because actually I haven't been as privileged as probably you guys, sort of physical conditions growing up. We really had to deal with fighting on the street. Most of it was just trying to evade fights in school, which I got plenty. I had more prevalent, more obvious health issues, but I'd say that yeah, that response to one show aggression to show to someone, um, because they're presenting themselves as an obstacle or just an inconvenience to you. That's I I I subscribe to that as well. Like that hasn't gone away just because I'm a Christian and I have a higher hopes of being better. Um, Now where it's prevalent for me is when you're saying the mental thing, the neuroplasticity, because as someone who's epileptic, there's a lot of self care that I try to practice. And one of those things where being, if I come out of a hostile situation, try to go in my room or outside or any one of my other habits that grant me peace. And so the reason why I I grant the ego to the entire response, not just to if I'm instigating the situation, is because no matter before, during, after, um, you have to you have to show control of yourself the way you want to, and sometimes the way you need to avoid any sort of more significant consequences. So I go back to you, Joe. If there was I don't know, maybe those policemen on the subway. I don't know how the jurisdictions work, but if he saw that go down and you felt if you felt if you felt as if you felt just as insecure and threatened, as our friend is mentioning here, then your appropriate response would to be uh, sending fists flying, but then at to what cost? At what cost to yourself? Um, and so I'm very much I'm very much focused to at what cost do my actions take. And at home, it's that like if I can tell you what my perspective is, it's that mental and emotional mastery over myself. And it's the biggest war I face because I can't control anyone else.
Yeah, that I think that's challenging, right? Like mastering yourself, you know? Um, I haven't fully got that. I haven't achieved that, you know, like I what one of the things that I would like to somebody asked me a couple days ago, they asked me what was if I remember being calm. And I was able to give just two scenarios where I felt at peace. One when I was a teenager in my room and you know where I live with my mom. I dozed off. I woke up, and when I woke up, a song by the Shirelles was playing. You know, this is dedicated to the one I love. That was playing because I let my music play while I'm sleeping. I woke up, that was playing, and at that moment, I felt completely relaxed. And the other time was in Puerto Rico when I woke up from sleeping um, during a vacation a couple years ago. Other than that, I'm in this perpetual state of tension, you know.
Yeah.
And I always wondered if it's related to ego, and that's why I wanted to talk about ego because I feel like maybe I'm confusing the terms, but I always thought that me not wanting to look bad, me not wanting to be taken advantage of, me trying to have a six pack, me trying, all that was based off of ego. You know, maybe I'm wrong on that, but I always got believed that that was the case.
I mean, it is ego, but again, I mean, I guess if you think about it even more, um, like why does anyone have ego? Like, okay, maybe your intention was not, uh, you know, uh, wholly belligerent. Like, you know, you didn't like, you weren't a bully for no reason. But are there any bullies for no reason? So, in other words, maybe we're diagnosing the whole situation wrong, and maybe that's why it's hard to correct the problem with a lot of people. Um, Now we know that a lot of people that were bullies and did have egos and did have ego trips, it doesn't happen spontaneously. It's from some kind of conditioning or some kind of trauma or some kind of experience. We always see people like getting it from their father. Their father used to beat them. That's a classic case. And then they take it out on the kids in school. You know, we've seen that many times. Um, so the fact that you're recognizing that though, and that you recognize that it's a problem or something that needs to be addressed is a very positive sign, you know, because you're self-aware to the extent that you feel like something is not correct about your responses. So, you know, I think that,
And mind you, these are all internal, right? I never act on them. You've
yeah,
never seen me post that I got into a fight or that it's all internal dialogue, but it
yeah,
keeps me from being at peace,
yeah,
you know? It keeps you from being at ease and at peace. And that's the problem. It's more of a personal thing, you know? Sorry to
yeah,
cut you off, brother. It's just like, I just wanted to clarify that I'd never act on them. Like I've never bullied anyone, you
yeah.
know?
No,
No,
I
it's,
see. You're talking about why you have these thoughts, and then you're confronting these thoughts prior to them ever turning into anything. But you know that just the thought itself, you acting upon it is not the issue because you know you're not going to do it. You're just questioning, like, wait, is what I'm feeling ego, right? Is that what I would get from what you're saying, right? You just want to know
well,
what.
is ego the culprit? Is my part of my lack of peace driven because of ego? I think could probably be where this kind of leads to, you know.
Oh,
Um,
oh yes, okay, yeah, if that's where you're getting at. It is, and I don't know what it. I'm not sure what it would take for you to recover from that. I mean, you got to look at yourself almost like someone who's been in a war. It comes back from whatever Vietnam or Iraq or any of those wars, and they have
Bronx.
PTSD. Yeah, yeah, it was a war. It was a war. So you have a type of PTSD, and people like that. I'm not actually sure how many people diagnosed with that properly clinically diagnosed with that ever recovered from that and find peace? I'm not sure. That's a good question. That's what I would look into if I were you, to see whether or not it's even, if it's possible, what are the steps that need to be taken for you to get to that peace, you know?
Right, right. Street PTSD, we call it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
street PTSD, because it was a war zone of its own. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I had somebody grab me in a headlock from behind one time, and he started shooting at a car, and he was using me as a shield. You know, like that kind of stuff stays with you, man.
Yeah.
You know, so if somebody comes close to me, um, you know, if you get too close to me and I don't know you, I'm already, you know, I'm ready to like hit you with the hardest cross I can throw. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but that portion I don't think is ego, right? That I know is not ego. That's just trauma from past experience. You know, like I know that, you know, that particular one is the ego. I think comes more into when somebody's flexing on me, how I respond to it. You know,
Yeah.
I think you're both right to a degree, and I'm thankful this is where I have a space to sort of make my point. I think that there needs to be, I think there needs to be a bridge to gap these two realities. So I would say also, I won't get into much now, um, but there's always certain things about my family that I love them, but I'm trying to improve as I go. And I would say, um, I have a consistent environment that I found myself in. When I realized that getting a part-time job or a full-time job hasn't changed any of that. So that's where that goes back to what I was saying about your individual response to the environment. Um, I heard you guys, and I agree. And this is also my hope that as we get older, we understand better how to neutralize the situation. Um, and if you guys wouldn't mind, I sort of had some notes. I know this isn't formal, but I had uh, a short passage of scripture that relates to this entirely. Do you mind if I read it?
not at all.
I don't mind.
Okay, cool. So, in the future, I know that I have some gifts to work in the church, and I really do want to become a teacher or a pastor at some point. I sort of have that heart of wanting to provide reconciliation. So, Proverbs chapter 8 discusses about wisdom, right? Like this discernment that we keep talking about, whether we have it or we don't have it, when is it to be applied? It says this: does not wisdom call out? Does not understanding raise her voice? At the highest point along the way, where the paths meet, she takes her stand beside the gate leading to the city. At the entrance, she cries aloud, to you, O people, I call out. I raise my voice to all mankind. You who are simple, gain prudence. You who are foolish, set your hearts on it. Listen, for I have trustworthy things to say. I have opened my lips to speak what is right. My mouth speaks what is true. For my lips detest wickedness. All the words in my mouth are just. None of them is crooked or perverse. To the discerning, all of them are right. They are upright to those who have found knowledge. Choose my instruction instead of silver, knowledge rather than gold. For wisdom is more precious than rubies, and nothing that you can desire can compare to it. I and wisdom dwell together in prudence. I possess knowledge and discretion. To fear the Lord is to hate evil. I hate pride and arrogance. A couple things we mentioned, right? Evil behavior, violence, and perverse speech. I mentioned that. Now wanting to let that out. Counsel and sound judgment are mine. I have insight and power. By me, kings reign and rulers issue decrees that are just by the princes. Um, and it goes on and on for a little bit. I realize it's a little bit longer than I intended. But the point here being is this discretion that we're discussing whether it exists and to what extent, is wisdom. This wisdom allows us to react in the best moments and even motivates us to react in the best way possible in this moment to begin. And so I tie that back to my opening statement. As a Christian, I have that hope. I have that inner joy that like I always have tomorrow to succeed because I have this unlimited source of wisdom that I can pull from. And so I don't know if you guys have something like that. You have a deeper joy that maybe can be present even amongst the most trial situations. But that's what I fall back on because I can get the jobs I need to help my mom lose my house or for my car. I'm about ready to flip it and just get rid of it. In my classes, I didn't do so well this semester. I have to repeat it to get my diploma and graduate. So I'm literally talking from a place where I can do nothing else but this. Control myself and eliminate all the barriers to my success that may come to me. And, so it's not just like, I'm just not trying to tell you what the Christian doctrine is. If I'm living that situation out right now and I'm trying to grow from it so that when I do get my independence, I'm that much better of a man for it. And that's really it, basically.
Well, Sage wrote a book on like religion and stuff. He's also very I guess of us three here, I'm the least religious one, well, in terms of knowledge, let's say, like I know you guys, you're going to know much more. You from Christianity, Sage will know Islam, Christianity, and he's written books on this stuff. So this is
bad.
it is,
Sure. I need to know.
but it's yeah. I mean, so I grew up in church, right? I grew up Christian. And when I got older, I started to question a lot, And I mean, me and Gibran have had extensive conversations on religion and all this stuff. We've prayed together. We've really had some heavy talks about it.
Mhm.
And, I haven't done it in a long time, but sometimes I'll just go sit in the church. I'm not Catholic, but I find a peace in when I go and just sit on one of the pews and just kind of sit there. I feel calmer than usual. There is a calmness that comes with simply just being. First of all, they're very beautiful. Those the architecture and the inside of a church, I find very beautiful, very appealing to my visual senses, and it's got a serene calmness to it. I feel safe.
And also the cultural sort of like threat to it, right? Like, because it's also a thing that like you go to the church because that's the place of peace, supposed to be, right? So, and I'm glad you had that experience because honestly, I'm just glad that you have somewhere to get that peace. And I claim it to be Jesus, but hopefully, but I'm glad that you have it. I'm glad that you have it for yourself, is what I'm saying.
I think there was something that a scientist said. I forget his name. I think I should just find out before I continue to bring this guy up because I forgot his name. He said something really. There was a documentary I saw about science and belief, right? And it was basically talking to different scientists who were either agnostic or they followed a specific tradition, or they were atheists. So one of them said something really interesting. They asked the host of the show, whatever, asked him, like, why do you believe in a higher power? And I loved his answer. He said that as a scientist, we noticed that everything that exists, that has a desire for something, that desire exists, right? So you're hungry because there is something for you to eat. You're supposed to eat food, but you feel hungry. Um, you know, a giraffe has a long neck because it's already used to going up and eating from the branches on a high tree. Um, you know, certain fishes, certain all kinds of creatures, they have what they have built into them because the thing that they're supposed to do with that exists in nature, and that just always shows itself in nature. So what he said was is that human beings inherently have a desire to connect with a higher power, something outside of themselves that's greater than themselves, that they feel either created everything or runs everything or is behind it all. You know, they have an inclination towards it, generally speaking. And he said that since that inclination exists, independent of religion, that means that something must be there, based on all the other data from everything else in creation. And I really like that answer. Um, and I felt that that answer was also something that should be told to people in general. Um, if not to make them follow any specific tradition, at least keep them from, you know, making a statement like there is no God, you know, or that there is nothing to the universe, or there is nothing to everything that we see. It's all random and by accident. Um, it seems as if it's so there's something else going on there. There's some kind of order. There's some sort of conscious order to things. Um,
That
yeah, and I think that um, the way that I uh, you know, find a lot of peace is, you know, as a Muslim, we pray 5 times a day, at least formally. You can pray as many times as you want, but that's like more of like the minimum checkup, I guess you could say, like kind of like checking your engine or whatever. Um, but for those you know, those few short minutes, you know, that I wash my face and my hands and my feet, and I go into a room and I quietly pray it, I'm really just connecting to that peace. And I think that I personally say that if I don't connect to that peace within those 5 to 10 minutes, then I haven't really done what it's designed to do, which is to reset,
absolutely.
to calm you down and to reconnect with the greater order and say, okay, well, what's happening right now? I just got into an argument 30 minutes ago with my brother. We were fighting over the car. Is it that serious? Is it that important for me to fight over it? You know what I mean? These and kind of understanding what's happening around you and then resetting yourself. I think it's natural. I think it's important for us. And if we don't do that, um, we can start to malfunction in other ways that we don't even recognize, that we can't even trace back to the fact that we're not doing something that our body needs, our not our body, but our spirit needs to do. You know, we obviously are not just simply functioning as with our basic biological functions of eating, sleeping, procreating, and finding shelter. We do require more than that based on our design, and that's where the spirit, I think, comes in. And it's really important for you to find peace. You know, daily. You know, have some kind of peaceful tradition where you can connect and understand that there's an order to things. You know, we're already learning about, you know, quantum mechanics and how, you know, cause and effect works and things like that in a deeper way. And science is already on the surface of that, but religion, I believe personally, Abrahamic religion, you know, the prophets already spoke about that but in a poetic way, in a metaphorical way, trying to convey those ideas. And to simplify it all, it's really just understanding that there's a higher order to things. You know, you understanding that the guy that just confronted you, that made you feel like upset and is trying to make you feel a certain way, he's coming from a cause and effect situation, you know, that was broken many years ago, going back all the way to, you know, thousands of years in generational pass downs. And then you have to recognize, okay, he's doing that because of that. So that calms me down a bit. And then I'm also reacting based on my experience and my conditioning, you know? So you understand how you are in the grand scheme of things, and how this big interplay is connected with everyone around you and everything that's happening around you. And by constantly reminding yourself of that, it helps a lot to quelch the ego, because you understand, like, hey, you know, there's something bigger going on. I can't just look at it as like, you know, don't look at it as the stick. Like somebody throws a stick at you, you don't yell at the stick.
Right.
You should be upset with through the stick, you know, but yelling at the stick is not solving the problem. So in a similar way, there's something greater when there's all these confrontations happening, and even what you feel in yourself. I think if you were to do some kind of daily practice to kind of remind yourself of that more often, I think over time it would help. I don't know how long it would take or how fast, or but I think it's something that you should incorporate in some kind of way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Angel,
Meditation or something.
back to you. I'd like to bring this back to you. So I guess some more concrete things. Um, so I think you made some excellent points, Sage. I'm so glad that, I can hear these things from you. But yeah, so what I want to connect it back to is, remember the first thing I said was like intentionality, discipline? Sage was really hitting on those moments where you don't get to do what you want to do, then it's not effective for you. You may have to try again maybe day or some other opportunity, but you have to get in those moments. Is it not, like that's what you need that to recover. And what I recognize that is rituals. Like you need rituals for yourself, man. Like for everything.
Yep.
For your health, for your grooming, for your work. The days that I wake up not so motivated about school, my uncle gave me this advice. He goes, you need to tell yourself 3 things. He goes, uh, he goes, something along the lines of your intelligence, you're intelligent, you're, like your boss, you're moving headed towards your goals. And then something I added was, you can learn anything, any day, at any point in time. And I didn't get in the mirror with those meetings, and then I go like that and I talk to myself because no one's gonna be kinder to myself than I can be. And so you need these rituals, not just for the spiritual life or this mental life, but like for everything, just to be who you want to be at those moments. And that's where I feel like it's missing from us. I think that in a world where we are so quick to accomplish everything, and if I might add, where people are always trying to be equal to each other despite their innate nature, um, there's something that you have to establish for yourself that this is who I am, this is my abilities, and I won't ever forget that. So,
I heard this statement a couple days ago. Actually, I think it was in a movie. Yeah, it was in 7 Years in Tibet. I was watching 7 Years in Tibet with my wife, and the Dalai Lama. He was a kid in the movie, but he said that Buddha says, if you can fix it, why worry about it? Just fix it. If you cannot change or fix it, then you cannot change or fix it. So why worry about it? So he says, worry is a fool's errand. If you can fix it, then don't worry about it. Just fix it. And if you can't fix it, then why worry? And I've been trying to say that to myself whenever I catch myself, kind of tripping on something.
That's something it's a start, and that's true. And that goes back to the order of things, The only difference between that statement in Buddhism and that statement in Abrahamic traditions is that we just say that God has a plan, right? So something that's out of your hands,
Right.
you have to understand God is like running the cosmic order. Like we can't understand. How many times do we live our life and we look back on something and we're like, oh, that actually wasn't that. So it actually was a good thing. That happens countless times. It happens so many times that I find it odd that we as human beings still, when something bad happens or seemingly bad, we still are like, oh my God, we make a decision like this is definitely bad. And yet time and time again, so many times we find out later, like, no, that's actually good that happened because then it led to this, So how many times does that need to happen for you to say, listen, I don't even have enough information whether or not this is even bad right now. Since I don't know whether this is bad or good, it might look bad to the untrained eye. This might actually be a good thing. But why should I even think about this when later on I'm going to be like, damn, I was crying for like 2 months straight because of this. And it ended up something that I shouldn't even been crying about.
Man, I'd like to give another specific example of my life just because I guess that's what we have it in. In the summer, I took 3 classes. I had to drop one of them because I was like, I'm just failing. I'm trying my best, but I can't. And so it really hurt me that I had to withdraw a class because I'm trying to finish with my associates. And what 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 the proof is, the physical evidence is, by withdrawing from that class, I had probably a point 0.8 cumulative, a whole point 0.8 cumulative GPA higher than what I would have kept. Like my final grade for that term was 3.1 because I was doing so well in the other classes. Like that was just my one problem. Like you said, or like Angel said, if you can't fix, let it go. Because honestly, the schools aren't going anywhere. They're going to be there as long as people need to learn and as long as the people live. So it's not easy. It's not what my pride wants to accept.
Right. That ego, you want to quit. Yeah.
Yeah, not anything my ego wanted, but there's always another chance.
There's a lot of acceptance. I've gotten better with that, just accepting things. I used to get mad all the time and feel upset. I've gotten better with, that's something I picked up in the military too, that there were things that were truly beyond my control. And it was such a, basically I had to submit. I had to submit to my situation. So, initially I was resisting, and I had to basically just, this is what it is. I hate it. I'm not happy, but I have to suck it up and I have to see it through. And the sooner I do that, the sooner it's over. And that's kind of, that's helped me in life. That, kind of understanding that, and actually it's almost like that statement from Buddha. And this was years ago, this was years and years ago, basically kind of just accepting that this is where I'm at. This is what it is. I'm not happy. I don't like it, but I can't do anything about it. So I submit and I accept it and I'm just going to get it done.
Yeah.
That happened in boot camp. Through boot camp, I had that realization. And I think that's the only thing I really gained from the military in terms of personal growth. And, was that moment where it clicked. And additionally, after that moment, boot camp became fun for me.
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed it.
You want to know something so crazy? This idea of submit. So a lot of people don't even know still that the word Islam is an Arabic word that actually means, it means peaceful submission, but submission to it's like it's acceptance, but not a forced acceptance. It's not like, listen, God runs the show and this is the way the universe works. And this is the way the rules are. You treat people bad, you get bad. You treat people good, you get, you know what I mean? Like the whole thing. And you need to, I'm going to force it down your throat. You angrily, like heeding it is not the same as peacefully accepting that, the reality of it. So a peaceful is like peacefully understanding, like, you know what? This is what it is. This is how the world works. And this is how God is. And this is how, ego and everything and cause and effect. This is how it all works. And I accept it peacefully. And then, only then do you actually begin to really enjoy life, because everything makes sense, even when it doesn't make sense, because you don't need to know the details. You just need to know that God's in control. When you know that, you feel relaxed. It's like when you go to sleep in a car, right? I'm not going to be able to sleep if the guy who's driving the car is somebody I can't trust driving the car. Yeah. Right. But if my dad, you know what I mean? When I was a kid, I can go to sleep in the car because my dad was like God to me as a child, like he's driving and we're going to get home. Like I can go to sleep peacefully, So that's kind of like the notion is that, peacefully submitting your will to something greater and a greater, whether it's a greater idea or a greater understanding of the way things work, But when you accept it, like really, really accept it peacefully, like, you know what, I'm not going to even fight this. This is really the way it is. It liberates you. It liberates you, but you can't force it. Like that has to come. You have to be able to
That
do that.
snap, that click. It's
Yeah.
kind of like that. What you're saying is resonating, because I'm wondering if one day I'm going to submit to life, and that peace that
Yeah.
I got in boot camp, that
Yeah.
just was all of a sudden my perspective changed. It
Yep.
went from stress and abuse and screaming and all this order and ironing underwear and all this craziness to something I enjoyed. Like by the second week into basic, going into the third week, I was a machine, and I was good. I was happy. As a matter of fact, it was hard for me to come back to the civilian world.
Mm.
So maybe that needs to happen in life. Like whatever it is that I'm resisting, or
Yeah.
that I'm fighting, that equivalent to the basic training experience.
Yeah.
Something has to click, and I don't know what that is. Yeah,
But
I don't know.
fact that you're open to it is a big thing, because like that's the first step. Being open to wanting to know, you know what I mean? Like when I did my spiritual research and my journey, the only reason why I'm able to write a book like the book that I wrote, which I think Albert you'd really enjoy, probably, now that I think about it. Um it, it's called The Creative.
I haven't read it yet, so I just want to be honest.
Yeah, no, but I have a feeling you would love it. It's basically a fictional story of a teacher, but it's a teacher in a very Jesus-esque format, where the teacher uses parables and stories to explain these wisdom concepts, but in present day form. So it's really cool. I think you would enjoy it. But anyway, what was I saying? Man, I lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
We were going off the topic of submission to life, and maybe becoming better for it, because now we get to enjoy what we have.
Oh, okay, wait. I remember now. Angel, you were saying that I said that you're looking for it though.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's the first sign, is that the first thing is that you're looking for it. A lot of people, they want peace, but they're not looking for it. You're open to the idea of like, listen, I just want to figure this out. Like, I just need this to be over. So whatever the truth is, or however it's gonna make it, I'm ready to receive it. And the fact that you're ready to receive it, it's just a matter of time before that the right sequence of events happen, where you kind of like it click. You said the click, it clicks for you. It really happens in a way that really makes you get it. Um, and I think hopefully it happens soon. I mean, sooner than later. So
Yeah, no, this is great stuff. I mean, the part of our biggest struggle is, can we let go of what we don't want to let go? And that's our biggest struggle.
yeah,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
meditation, simply just stillness, meditation, stillness, and drag myself and go into I have a church in 71st, fairly close to where I live, that, and just sit there and kind of just meditate, sort of,
yeah,
just kind of meditate.
yeah,
There's a lot of science that says meditation is really helpful to us. So,
yeah.
it's crazy how we got into all this from ego, but it's kind of, it's,
There is an interplay. It's connected, so that
yeah,
that to come up. But yeah, I think it's great. A great conversation.
yeah. Oh man, I got you guys. We're going in on going in an hour. I definitely want to thank you guys for coming on and chatting with me and talking about this topic. It's kind of, you know, particularly men don't like to be vulnerable and talk about things like that. So, ego and things like that. Because of our egos, we don't want to be vulnerable and talk about the ego. We just got to keep up these tough appearances and
Yeah, it's a circle issue.
Yeah.
But So yeah, thanks for having me. I'm so happy to meet you, Sage. And get on that book because I've got, I love to learn and really just understand myself better too. Because I'm,
Yeah, I think you would.
afraid of the truths you have.
Yeah, you really would enjoy it. I really, from the conversation that we've just had, even though I just really virtually just met you, but the way you articulate your thoughts, I think you would really enjoy the book for sure. So it's called The Cradle of Prophecy, um, and you would see my name, Gibran Malik, on Amazon,
All
and
right.
yeah, you'll see it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's unrelated, but Sage also has an app for artists.
Yeah, I have a booking and payment app that I released recently for creatives and artists, you know, makeup artists, singers, songwriters, photographers.
The
So it's
two things.
basically,
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I just want to clarify two things. The title of your book is What Cradle of,
The Cradle of Prophecy.
and your platform, would it support also artists in the form of like these the video content marketing thing, putting things something out so that people can view it on their downtime as well?
Oh yeah, where there's different categories that you can register services as. So it's basically like an online. Think of it like a store, like a community of
Mhm.
different creatives that offer services, and you put your prices for your services, and they all hire each other for content, to work. So it's really streamlined and straightforward to the point. Usually people like when they want to work with a creative, they, send them a message on Instagram or they email them and they ask like, it's like a whole long process and then you don't know how much they charge and then you try to barter. Like it's weird. So I made it so that you basically turn your services into a storefront and the only time you get notifications on the app is because someone wants to pay you for your service. And then once they initiate the conversation, it's a gig and it's managed in your gig section. There's a section for all your gigs. And then you can discuss details of the job. You can set the estimate for the price. You can adjust the estimate based on how much they need. You can hold a deposit in the app and then you can finalize the payment. The payment and the deposit go straight to your bank account. It's like a more advanced Cash App, but specifically designed for creatives. Also, anyone you pay on that app, it shows you your receipts as tax deductible. At the end of the year, it tallies up all your expenses from everyone that you paid on Artist Connect as a tax deductible expense. So if you're an artist and you hired your videographer and your photographer and your models and your makeup artists and your recording engineers through Artist Connect, at the end of the year, you'll just see that everything that you spent is tallied up as tax deductible expenses. So it helps you do your taxes at the end of the year as well. Um, yeah, it's like a booking and management tool, but specifically for creatives. So you can check it out. It's free to download, free to make a profile. It's Artist Connect, ARTIST space CONNECT. It's in the App Store, Google Play. You'll see it. And yeah.
Oh, I appreciate this very much. I have a friend who is Haitian and he's really awesome pieces of work, including with banana peels. And he's been trying to do this on his own, just straight through Instagram. And so I'm going to talk to you more about this on the side, him and even for me, or I'm developing craft as well. So,
Great. That's fantastic.
cool. Mhm.
You are listening to the NYC Talking podcast. www.nyctalking.com. Please like NYC Talking on Facebook. Please follow Angel R Talk on Twitter and Instagram. We are NYC Talking, the realest lifestyle blog ever. Thanks for listening.